I basically, one of my student loan disbursements, I took all the money and I bought you your engagement ring.
He gets his disbursement a week later. Oh, babe, I don't know what we're going to do. I'm like, wait. Where the hell did you put the money? So when you're constantly running on fumes and you have no opportunity to ever charge your battery, you start to feel like you're going insane. And I feel like that's the point that we're at right now.
Behind every great man is an even greater woman. And we both know that that's not true, because every great woman is beside every great man.
In front of.
Okay, you see, you try to give an inch. Behind every great man is an even greater woman, and we both know that that's not true, because every great woman is beside every great man.
In front of.
Okay, you see, you try to give an inch. You see, this is why.
Yeah.
Okay, well, happy Valentine's Day,
Happy Valentine's
sweetheart.
Day, my love.
This is really the only time that we've gotten to spend together alone in... When was the last time your mom was here?
Last weekend.
That didn't count. We kind of blew that weekend.
We really did. We had a nice little day at the farmer's market.
We did have a nice day at the... I don't remember even going to the farmer's market. Which farmer's market did we go to?
Are you kidding me? Winter Garden?
Oh, we did, and we went to the breakfast place. It was lovely, though. It was lovely. Okay. That was too long ago. So let's start at the beginning.
We'll clip that.
Oh, yeah. All the way in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
We actually met in 2011.
2012.
2012. You were still in high school, I believe.
I graduated in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And we met.
So you graduated high school in 2011.
Yes. And when did you graduate?
I graduated high school in 2006. We were both legal. That's an important disclaimer. You were of age.
I was.
But we met in 2012.
Uh-huh.
And we were good friends working at Brooks Brothers, that great American classic.
The best white shirts.
The best white shirts. And then you left.
Mm-hmm.
And then I left. And then you came back and you were asking about me.
I said, where's my man? I came back for one thing. And you were nowhere to be found.
And this was after you had told the world that you would never date a Dominican man. So let's expand on that a little bit.
We don't need to expand. I will say experiences in the past made me fear for my life when it came to Dominican men.
Now you've got 2 little Dominican children.
And now I have 2 beautiful Dominican children with my beautiful Dominican man.
So now you've got 2 little Dominican children.
I do.
Thanks to me.
Perfect.
Yeah. But when we started dating in 2014, we were both in very different places back then. What do you remember about those days?
Those days, I just remember working Woodbury Commons, sweet old Woodbury Commons, where everyone went to work after they graduated high school, and just really not knowing what I wanted to do with my life, and just going through the motions. Every day was the same. And when I did come back to Brooks Brothers and you weren't there, I started plotting in my mind, how can I stage this reconnection without being too obvious? And I didn't even have to, because you did all the work.
I don't know that that's accurate.
It's very true. Tell them what you did to get my phone number.
I just asked for it. I asked.
Let's be honest.
Okay, I asked a mutual friend for the phone number.
And she said, no, you creep. And you grabbed the phone from her. And you took it anyway.
And because I was inviting you to a birthday outing, which you neglected to go to.
I didn't neglect to go to it. I worked late, and I had in my mind, this is my night. I'm going to make my move. But I had to work late.
And then the next time after that, when I showed up at Brooks Brothers with a couple friends, that we were going to go to the movies, my buddies and I believe you were closing the register and you were just sitting there fumbling around,
I have
looking nervous.
butterflies.
But then in 2014, it was, so that was like the kind of talking, getting to know you phase. I was going to bring you some of your favorite cookies, and the same day that that was supposed to happen, my dad died, and so I couldn't bring you the cookies. They got very stale.
They tasted good when you finally brought them.
Well, that's nice. It was like 4 weeks later. They had been in my car for quite some time. But those days where it was kind of like a dark period for me, I went back to DR for, I don't remember how long I was back there, a little over a month. And we weren't really like dating yet. We were still just kind of talking and you were still entertaining, maybe going on dates with other people. What was going through your head then?
That was never ever going to be a date, ever. And what was going through my mind was, we were getting to know each other. I wanted to give you space, but also make you understand that I'm here with whatever you need. And then when you came back, you came to see me at work. We had our first kiss, and then it was curtains from then.
2 weeks after that, I told you that I got accepted into dental school in Chicago.
Yes.
But I wasn't sure that I was going to go, because I felt like part of my responsibility was to be there for my brothers and be there for my mom. And I didn't really want to go. But you kind of talked me into going. And I guess when I first told you I got accepted and that I might have to move to Chicago, and both of us lived in New York, what was going through your mind?
I don't think I was thinking about myself in that moment. I just knew that this was an opportunity that you worked so hard for, and the timing wasn't the best, but it wasn't something that you could give up because you were worried about your family. I knew your family would be okay. You had to do what was best for you in that moment. And I can honestly say, when I told you, I don't care about the excuses, like, you're going, I wasn't thinking about myself in the equation. And then we didn't really talk about it much after that, I don't think.
No, not until...
I was just like, you're going.
Not until Halloween
Yeah.
Of 2014, when I went to visit you again at work, and you were wearing a mustache.
It was a lot darker than the one I have now.
Not that much darker. You've been busy, so it's hard to wax it all the time. But you were wearing a mustache, and I asked you to come with me to Chicago. And we had been like technically dating like 3 weeks, if that, when I asked you that. Yeah. But you said yes right away.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
It. To this day, a bunch of things I can't pinpoint.
Why would you say yes? Right? I mean, that's something I've always like. It was just like there was no hesitation.
People always say when you know, and I just felt it. It felt like the timing was right for you to leave for your own reasons, and for me to leave because I wanted to get out of New York for so long. Yeah, the timing just felt right, and I knew that if all else fails, I can just come home, even though I didn't want to. But I knew that it was just taking a chance, and if it didn't work out, it's life. You learn, you move on from it. I could always come home, but I knew that it was going to work out.
Yeah, I knew that too. That's why
you didn't.
I knew that. Okay, I'll tell you when I knew that it was going to work out.
Okay.
I knew it was going to work out when we were in Chicago.
A year later.
When we were in Chicago, alone on Christmas, 2015. We moved there March of 2015. So December 2015. That was the first Christmas I had ever been away from, my family, whether extended or immediate. Probably your first Christmas away from your family.
Yes.
and I think we were pretty miserable. It was a tiny apartment.
Yeah.
It was just us. We had no money, nothing to do. I
We
think
had Benjamin.
we had the dog. But we were sitting there watching TV, and it was like, the local bulletin board channel.
Yeah.
That just
No Christmas movies, no
Nothing.
Christmas music, just
nothing,
misery
just the local bulletin board channel.
in our dark apartment.
But I figured at that point, like, okay, well, if I'm gonna be miserable, like, at least I'm in a very romantic way. If I'm gonna be miserable, like, I'd rather be miserable with you. Yeah, like, there's no one else I'd rather be this miserable with, because you were miserable as well. So, no, but what I just said is extremely romantic when you think about it. Right?
Yeah,
like,
you have to really think about
you
it.
have to. Okay. Our first couple days living in Chicago. Were you still sure that it was going to work out? Because I might remind you were quite combative those first couple days.
Okay. It was my first time ever living with a man
I hope so.
who was not my brother's.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm excited to do all the things. We have a brand new apartment. We're in a brand new city. I'm like, let's go to Target. Let's go to IKEA. We're going to decorate our first apartment. And you're just on your phone in the aisles. And I'm like, okay, we were supposed to do this together. So that reality set in very quickly, that men and women are very different. So I wasn't doubting my decision to come to Chicago. It was just like, oh, this is different. A little frustrating.
Well, from my point of view, it was like, okay, these are the things that you love to do. So have at it. Like, I want the apartment to look the way you want it to look. And if you ask me, like, what do you think? And you look excited about it, I'm saying, yeah, looks good.
Okay, but you lived there too. So some input would have been nice.
I did give you input. I said, yeah, it looks good. And I think because to this day, you still don't fully understand that I don't see and visualize spaces the way that you do, right? It's very hard for me to give you input on, I want to do this to the living room because I can't picture it. I can't see it. And that was my first time ever living with a woman. So it was an adjustment for me as well.
Okay.
And like, we're in a brand new city. Like, if we walk across the street, we feel lost. So there was 2 weeks I'm starting dental school. Like, they're sending all these emails every day. That's why I was on my phone. So a lot of that is just like, all right, we're in Target. Cool. Plus we spent like $2,000 at Target.
Okay. It was part of the process. But I didn't doubt my decision. It was just, okay, I'm living with a man. This is new. He's doing some things that frustrate me, but I'm not going to run away. And that was it.
Okay.
Things got better.
Things were great. I think there were some what ifs, right? Like with some of our life choices. Like you and I always wanted to live in California. That's something that you've talked about forever. I've talked about forever. I've always wanted to live in California. And as I was finishing school, I got offered an AGD residency in Venice Beach. I went out there. I interviewed it. I loved the area. But the pay for 1 year was going to be like $40,000 in 1 year, which in Southern California, it's like you might as well not be paid anything.
A Laguna Bum.
Laguna Bums. That was our original TV series idea. We were going to be Laguna Bums. And I ended up turning it down because a couple months before that, we got engaged. So we finally ended our common law marriage.
It seems so much longer in it, but now I'm like,
go ahead and tell. We
fast.
had been dating a year before you were like, well, I don't know if you're ever going to marry me. I was like,
we were already pretending to be, we were playing house.
Yeah, I mean, but it was a year that we had been dating. Okay. And I mean, the way you spoke to people about it, it was like if we had been together like 15 years and I was just,
Okay, I was half kidding.
And the other half was not.
It wasn't, because we were already playing house. Why not? I knew that you were the person I was going to marry. I hope you knew too by then.
I did tell you I knew. Remember
Well,
Christmas,
don't
miserable?
make it seem like I was this crazy girl.
No,
just like,
well, your eyes are doing the thing right now. But I basically, one of my student loan disbursements, I took all the money and I bought you your engagement ring, and we went to the Dominican Republic, and I proposed on the beach. Well, okay, so our student loan disbursement for every 4 months for living expenses was like $10,000. So we didn't know how we were gonna live for like 3 months. So there you go. You do the math.
but put yourself in my shoes. I'm like, okay, we have to pay rent for the next 3 months. He gets his disbursement. A week later, "Oh, babe, I don't know what we're gonna do." I'm like, wait. Where the hell did you put the money?
And I couldn't tell her. I was just like, I don't know what we're gonna do about rent for the next 3 months.
Yeah. So I worked all the time and went to school so that we could eat.
Yeah, she was my sugar mama for a good 3 months.
I was.
Because I was in school, I had no money, and I had used up the student loan disbursement for her ring. And so that was my first real solid financial decision in life. Not the last. Oh, we've got some greatest hits. So anyway, so we turned down the AGD residency, the chance to live in California, just because we wanted to have a wedding where like all of our family could come to. But do you ever think about how different life would have been if we had, taken that opportunity to live in LA? Like, would we still be living there? Could we afford to live there? Would our house be on fire? What?
A lot of things I don't know, but what I do know is that no, we couldn't afford to live there.
So we used to spend a decent amount of time, like while I was a student and she was a part-time student, part-time employee, probably like $300 in our checking account. And we would just kind of scroll through Zillow and, look at $2 million mansions and be like, nah, this one's too small. So I think
But even when we were looking in California, we would see 800,000. We'd be like, oh, that's more in our budget.
It was
And
like a
they
little
were
shanty.
flats,
It was like a little shanty.
garages.
Yeah.
So I don't think we would have been able to afford that. Would it have been enjoyable? Would it have been enjoyable? Absolutely. But I don't think for what we were trying to accomplish and a wedding, kids long term, like thinking long term, I don't think that would have been the best idea.
Probably not, but I think we also don't have like the most solid thinking long-term track record, because remember we were gonna. So then when we decided no, we're not gonna stay in we can't go to LA. We decided, well, we'll just stay in Chicago and we'll live in Chicago. Chicago's beautiful. We love it. We'll buy a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, high-rise condo on Lakeshore Drive.
And then later on, when we have kids, we'll get a nice brownstone.
So that also didn't work out. We still love Chicago, but do you remember when because I think I decided before you did, like, I don't want to stay in Chicago.
It was very shortly after we had the conversation that we were staying in Chicago. So it came as a surprise to me when you said, why don't we just move to Florida? My heart shattered.
So after I told you, I think I want to move to Florida. I don't think you spoke to me or to anyone else.
I just had
for
single tear
for
when you dropped me
a
off
week
at school that day.
Yes. And I think that's because in your mind, if you are about to die, you move to Florida first, and then you die. And I think Jimmy probably feels similar. But what was your beef with Florida at that time?
Let's just remember right now that all of America wants Florida to just fall off the country. And that should just explain the times we're living in today are very Florida.
Okay, but
that's now. But what about that?
Yeah, what about that?
I still had the same. I knew what was.
Okay,
I knew what was to come.
But I think you maybe like prejudged all of Florida.
Okay, there are certain parts of Florida that are very southern, and I'll leave it at that. When we spoke about Windermere, I've never been there before. Your uncle lives here. I've never been there. I don't know what to expect. I can't. What do you. When I think of Florida, I think of old, sad, country, and I'm not any of those things. So why would I want to move there? But you convinced me to come down and visit. So we did. And by the time we were getting on the flight back, I said, okay, let's start looking.
And then maybe like a year later, we were here. So,
Yeah.
we've had a lot of, I think, life-altering decisions. Some of them were planned, like the decision to have a baby. Some of them were unexpected, like the decision to have a second baby. Looking back, what's one choice that you think really defined the path that we're on today?
I really think it all started in Chicago, deciding to move to Chicago together because, like you said before, we've never been away from our family. We grew up in New York. Your family was in the Dominican Republic, but your mom and your brothers, you've been in New York since you were 5. So that's all we knew. We were moving to a brand new city. No friends, no family there, no nothing. And just taking that chance and succeeding at that and seeing that there's so much more to life than what we knew back home. And I think that once we jumped and we did it, there was no turning back. So I think that was the biggest life-altering decision we made.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think followed by the decision to have Cruz, because that was, I mean, life-changing. That is life-changing because this kid's here forever now. Like we can't give him back.
I know. I realized that when we got home from the hospital.
It's like, what do we do with
now
it?
What
What does he do? What do we do? So 2020.
Yes.
We'd been living in Florida for 2 years by then. We bought our first house. I think we made the deposit like December of 2019.
Literally, like probably the last few days of December.
Yeah. I think it was like December 18th, 19th, right before the holidays. So that was December 2019. Literally a month later, we found out that you were pregnant.
Maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we've got that going on. And then maybe like 2 months after that, the pandemic just like shuts everything down. What a time to be alive.
Do you remember how? Do you remember when I called you in a panic?
Yes, I do. There's a virus and it's coming.
And you were like, babe, it's not that serious. Like, it's contained. We're going to be okay. And I was like, no, but Tom Hanks and his wife have COVID. It's going to come and get us all.
I think that's when you really, I think it was when it got Tom Hanks. Because you said something like, if it's getting Tom Hanks.
It can get us.
So, I don't really think I saw that coming the way it did. But I remember, I think it was either March 15th or March 17th of 2020 when the practice I was working at just like closed midday.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, everyone go home.
We'll call you if we need
We'll call you if we need you. And we were all just like, and everyone just kind of ran out the back door. And then I had nothing to do for the next like 3 months. Everything was closed. Like, Heartland gave me this little laminated badge that said like, what was it that it said? Was it like a first responder or essential person, essential worker or something? And that was like my badge of honor. That was like my FBI badge. I wanted so badly to pull up to like a crime scene one day and just like,
you tried.
I did try. But anyway, I had nothing to do and you were pregnant. And I think that time for you was amazing because
it was so good. Oh, it was so good.
Disclaimer, because people were dying left and right. So that wasn't great.
That was horrible. And
but no, I know. But I think it was the fact that no one could be around you.
No one could be around me. No one could talk to me unless I picked up the phone. No one could see me. I could be big and ugly and deteriorating. I was puking constantly. So I didn't really have to worry about.
No one was touching your belly.
None of that. And it was so peaceful and lovely. And then you had to be home. Things got better. But I will say in the beginning, I'm trying to have a peaceful day, and I just see you at the window.
Okay, in fairness, I had never in my life had nothing to do.
Okay.
Right? Like I was always in school, in college, studying for some board exam, working, doing something. Like the idea of just you wake up and you have nothing to do was very jarring, right? And you're told if a patient calls with an emergency, you can go in and see them. We lived across the street from the office. In those early, no one had an emergency. Even if they had an emergency, they were like, no, I'm staying home with my emergency. Like no one had any idea what was going on. So just sitting around an apartment all day, looking out the window and watching Joe Dirt on Netflix.
Tiger King.
That's what it was, not Joe Dirt. Tiger King and all these other ridiculous shows. And then I think eventually we developed a routine.
No, I think Tiger King really was like, oh, this is kind of nice.
I was starting to get used to it around Tiger King. But we did develop a routine where it's like we would wake up, we would go for like a walk around the lake. We'd come home at like 11 in the morning, maybe have some wine, and then we'd take a nap.
Pregnant.
Well, I would have some wine.
No,
and then we would take a nap, and we would wake up, then we'd go for another walk. Eventually, when we felt very daring, we would like drive to Starbucks because they were essential as well. And then we would play Uno.
Yes.
And that took a toll, I think. Things got very stressful, and we had to maybe dial back the Uno because you kept cheating.
I didn't cheat. You just didn't know how to play.
Or you didn't know how to follow the rules. But then when I went back to work, A, you missed me, and B, I kind of did not like being there anymore. So the pandemic was still raging. You were then even more pregnant. We moved into our house in June of 2020, and then I had one of my greatest ideas to date. Tell them my greatest idea to date. Yeah.
Was it open the practice?
Yes.
Yeah. So new house, new baby, still working. What, 12-hour days?
12-hour days.
12-hour days. This man thought it would be such a good idea to just, I'm gonna quit, and then I'm gonna build my own startup.
Visionary. So
Yes,
I decided I'm gonna leave a pretty stable income, pretty good income. We still got a mortgage payment, and now here's your new baby. And we had insurance still when Cruz was born because it was through the company, but they kept sending us bills from the hospital, and each bill was like $4,000, and we had no idea where it was coming from. And
no, that one wasn't bad. It was when we had the private insurance with Penelope.
Oh yeah, that was pretty terrible.
And those bills every time. I'll just die instead. It's okay.
But when I think when I first told you that I wanted to leave and open my own practice, we've talked about it. I kind of felt at the time, like maybe you had some doubts if I could do it or not. How did you feel?
I've never doubted if you could do it. I know that you are a person who you don't just say things. If you're saying something, it means you've already thought about it. You already have a plan. You've already started making moves. And I never doubted that you would be able to do it and run a successful practice. It was just more like the timing. Why now? On top of everything else. And what if it doesn't succeed? What if we fail? It's not just us anymore. We have a little baby to think about.
And I understand all that. I just think, there's never a perfect time for anything. I think, my perspective is always you either make time or you don't. And there wasn't a perfect time to have the baby because for the first 3 months, like we didn't know what we were doing with Cruz. And it wasn't like, we had a pretty good income, but it wasn't like, oh yeah, financially, like we're set, we can have a baby. There wasn't a perfect time to have Penelope or, to open the practice. And I was getting to the point of burnout because, in the late stages of your pregnancy with Cruz, I would be at the office at 8 in the morning and wouldn't get home till 8 o'clock at night. and I just I thought that there would be a better way. That's still up for grabs, but I've always thought, like, if you just sit around and wait for the perfect time, then it's never gonna come. So we worked through that, and I kind of started the process of opening this place up, opening the practice, and then I asked you, I think it was I asked you, like, hey, do you want to come? Do you want to come work with me? Do you want to help me?
Please.
And that was kind of a sticking point too.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember exactly why I felt so conflicted when you asked me, and most of it was because I was so attached to Cruz, where the thought of not being with him 24/7 just broke my heart, and thinking that I'll miss all of these things because I'll be at work, that didn't seem appealing to me. And I don't know, I just wasn't ready to be away from him yet, but I agreed to it, and here we are.
Well, I mean, when we opened the practice, Cruz was what, 9 months?
No, he was a year and almost a year and a half.
When we opened the practice, he was. What, as a mom, those late stages before the practice opened, like November, December, what were they like for you? Because I was stressed out of my mind because we were having issues with the permitting here and the delays and everything. So, if I was spending 12-hour days at, the company before, here I was spending like 14-hour days just talking to contractors and trying to get everything up and running. And what was going through your mind?
It was just very stressful at that time. It felt like we went from one extreme to another, and it was hard to see, okay, it's going to pay off. Once we open, like, it'll pay off. It'll be fine. These are just the rough stages that you have to go through before you start to see the fruits of your labor. But it was very stressful, obviously, when you have a newborn by yourself, essentially all day. But nothing we couldn't handle.
I think my mom was a huge help too, having her,
Yeah.
having her there, because we weren't going to put Cruz in daycare at a year and a half. And, she moved back here from the Dominican Republic to help, to help take care of him. And then we fast forward a little bit to that fateful day when we made salmon for dinner. And you asked me, like, does this salmon taste weird? I was like, this salmon tastes delicious. I don't know what your problem is. And it turns out that the problem was not salmon. The problem was Penelope.
Penelope and him. Our little piece of salmon.
A little fish. A little fish stick.
Okay.
So we weren't, like, it's not that we weren't trying to have Penelope, but we weren't not trying, but we weren't trying either. It was kind of just like,
whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, it was very vibes. And then like 3 days later, it's
the vibes were a little too good, and she happened a little too quickly.
Yeah. So I'm here at the computer and I'm doing some end of day reports, and you come running out of the bathroom. With
No. So Kayla and I, we go to Target, and you're like, babe, you need to go to get a pregnancy test. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm not pregnant. It was just the salmon. I ate it again at work. I threw up again. And I'm like, it's just the salmon. It has to be the salmon. And you're like, oh, I'm fine. I had it for lunch too. It's great. So Kayla and I go to the store. We walk around for the full hour. We're about to leave. She's like, the pregnancy test. I'm like, ugh, fine, let's go back and get it. Pick one up, throw it in the cart. I get back to the office, finish the day, and we're about to leave. And you're like, hello, are you not going to take it? And I was like, there's no urgency. I know that I'm not pregnant. We'll take it when we get home. It'll be negative.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. It's just the salmon. When I tell you, I went to that bathroom right over there. I took the test, and when I saw those lines, my body just got hot. I felt like I could not breathe. And I come out, and I have the most, I wouldn't say devastated, but
Frantic
look on my face. And he's like, oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. No, 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 no. And I start crying more. I'm like, no, don't react like that. Please, you're going to make me feel worse.
It wasn't that I was like sad or unhappy about it. It just literally was like a shock because with Cruz, it took forever. And like we were actively trying with Cruz, and then come to find out your ovulation app was just all wrong.
Yeah.
But with Penelope, it was just like, yeah, if it happens, cool. If not, cool. But it'll probably take a while, no big deal. And literally, like that same week, it was like, here's Penelope. And we were just like,
wait, what?
What? Stop.
Hold on, I was lying. I wasn't ready.
So then here comes Penelope, and while you're pregnant with her, I start getting real sick. And again, the theme is fish because we had sushi in December. You got pregnant with Penelope in August, and we had sushi in December, so you were like about halfway there. And after that, I just got like really sick, and it just would not go away, like months. And then I don't remember what it was that finally prompted me to go to the doctor or who.
Me begging you, forcing you.
Probably that. And so I went to a consultation. I got some blood work done. Had to go see a specialist, and the specialist told me, based off your lab works, based off what we're seeing, based off your symptoms, it could be a couple things. There's a possibility that you have colorectal cancer, and again, it's just one of those things where it's like, what are you talking about? Like I was 32 at the time. Cruz was 2. You were pregnant. We had just kind of gotten the office off the ground.
Everything with your grandfather, your mom not being there.
Yeah, my mom wasn't here. She had to go back to DR because my grandfather was really ill. So it was everything all at once again. And I actually didn't want to tell you what that conversation was with the doctor. But I tried hiding it, but that didn't work out all that great. And I think you were pretty close to a mentee B at that time.
Every moment of my life from that period. How long did it take for you to finally?
It was like 4 months because I was sick for like a good 4 months.
Yeah.
Until they did the procedure where they were like, you're good, no cancer. But that was like a 4 month stretch.
Yeah.
And you kept looking at me like I was dying.
I did.
Every time you would look at me.
I did.
Just like if I was like a goner. Like.
And it's because, I kid you not, when you started getting sick, I started to see videos, and I wasn't looking for them, about colorectal cancer and how before, I think the recommended age for a colonoscopy was 45. Mm-hmm. And now I saw so many videos of so many young people being diagnosed, and so many people pushing for the age to be moved up. And I'm like, oh my God, if this is a sign, like how I pray to God, and I don't pray often, I pray to God that this is not the case, because like, what would I do?
I don't have you guys would have been,
no.
Financially at least, you guys would have been fine. I know that, but it is because we have 2 little kids. But thankfully, it wasn't that, and I think that was a big relief. I found out that I was clear in April, but in March, my grandfather had just passed away, so there was that to deal with. it was I think 2023, we've both said that the only good thing that happened in 2023 was Penelope was born.
The only good thing.
Literally the only good thing that happened to us that year. Even picking, because we knew she was going to be a C-section.
Yeah.
So the doctor was like, okay, you can pick her birthday, and you and I are both born on the 18th.
Mm-hmm.
You're May 18th. I'm July 18th. Cruz was born September 26th. Sorry, it's because.
Are you crazy?
No. He was born September 26th, 5:37 p.m. But we wanted Penelope to be born April 26th, so that the kids could be the 26th. We would be the 18th. All so cute. And then I think we like Googled like April 26th in history, and it was like the Chernobyl accident and
disaster
like
disaster.
Hitler invades whatever, and like like the massacre at whatever. And so we were like,
great, just great.
Okay, so she's not gonna be born April 26th. But before she was born, you had to leave the practice. Very unexpected. I mean, we knew that you were gonna leave the office. Yeah. But we had thought it would be further along. But then because my grandfather got sick, my mom had to go back to DR, and then there was no one to watch Cruz. He wasn't in school yet. So you kind of just, at the drop of a hat, had to leave the practice. That put a lot of stress on me here because you basically knew how to run the entire practice and no one else did. What were the stressors for you from your end, from your perspective for that?
Just feeling like I let everyone down, and I know that everything was out of my control, but it made me realize how we always wanted a small, close-knit office, but it being so small from the beginning, it was like you guys were all clinical and I was the only one up front. So everything that I learned, I had no one to share it with, so I didn't feel the need to share it. But leaving, it just felt like I was leaving everyone in the dust. So that really stressed me out. I felt horrible and just worried about everyone here. And I don't know. I just felt not like a failure because I knew it wasn't my fault, but I was really sad to go. I was so sad to go.
I mean, thankfully we did have a pretty solid team, and I think that was one of the benefits of being such a small, close-knit office, is that we had a lot of people that could kind of pick up, and everyone knew and everyone understood what was going on, and we did what we had to do and we got through it. And then when Cruz started school, did you want to come back or
I started working remotely, like a few hours every day, to kind of get back into the swing of things and feel like a person again. So I knew eventually I did want to come back. So once Cruzy went to school, I knew that.
So with Cruz, when Cruzy was little, you didn't want to leave him, he was the firstborn. We had never had a baby before, but you didn't want to leave him. And then with Penelope, was it in your mind kind of like, ooh, I can't be a stay-at-home mom?
It was, just because I remember how hard it was with Cruz in that first year, especially in the first few months. But I do remember how hard it was and how I just didn't feel like a person. I was like a shell of myself. So I knew that when we did have a second baby, I would have loved to be there with her for as long as I could and see everything. But I knew that I would be a better mom if I had something for myself as well. So I knew that eventually I would end up going back.
What's the hardest part about working here?
I think the hardest part, please tell me. The hardest part is I feel like you're the dentist. This is your career. This is your dream. And sometimes I feel like a support person, like your go-to. And it doesn't feel like this is my passion. I love it so much. Oh my gosh, I love this practice so much. It's my baby. That's why I'm having so many hard times with all these changes that are happening. But the hardest part, yeah, I think just feeling like a support person. And I have some people come in and they're like, oh, your last name's Cabrera. The doctor's name is Cabrera. I'm like, yeah, my husband's the owner. They're like, well, so are you. But it doesn't feel like that because I don't know.
I mean, we've talked about this
Yeah.
a lot, I think, and I understand that I went to school for dentistry. I understand that I'm the dentist, um, but it's I don't know. I feel like I've told you, you working here has been the best thing that has happened to this practice. And when I told a lot of my friends that I was going to be working with my wife, it was like, oh, dude, good luck. But it has been one of the best things that has happened to this practice. And if you just look around, this practice is a reflection of you as much as it is of me, and probably more, because just the way it's decorated, the way it's designed, um, those are all things that stem from your brain and your passions and your imagination. And I'm very good with patience. I have a very good chairside manner, but your memory is probably a lot better than mine's is with a lot of the patients. Like, you'll come up to me and be like, oh, you remember this patient so and so? And I'll be like, no. Like, well, we saw them in 2022. Why don't you? And I was like, do you know how many teeth I've seen since 2022? You know, but pull up an x-ray, I'll remember them. So it isn't just mine. Like, yes, I chose to study dentistry, but we chose to open a practice. But at the same time, I'm coming to understand that you want to have something separate, I think, which is kind of how we landed on your creativity and interior design and finding ways to nurture that passion. But right now, that's really hard too.
Yes. Extremely hard. I did make a step to start pursuing that, but me taking that step caused you to be here until what, like 6, or get home by 6, and we usually start doing like our bedtime routine at 7. So I had to really think about, is it worth right now living a life where you're staying home late, you're taking on all of my duties. Did I say staying home late?
I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay. You coming home late, you having to take on all of my work, then having to come home, deal with the kids, our more stressful job, dealing with the kids. Right now, I know that it's not my season right now. Hopefully, I can get it soon, but I know that in order for things to be okay, I just have to focus on what's priority right now, and it is the practice. I want to make sure everything's okay. We're here literally every day. So if this is unraveling, that doesn't give me the peace of mind to be able to enjoy the other things that I would like to do. So it is stressful, but it's just...
I mean, we have 2 toddlers. We have this business, potentially other businesses, a bunch of things pulling at our attention. And we've both said, like, coming to work feels easier than going home. So there's just the daily whirlwind, and I feel like we don't have enough time for us, but I also don't feel like it's not for lack of trying. Like, everybody that we've spoken to that has older kids that have gone through this phase, they all say the same thing. Oh, dude, you guys are in the thick of it. When does the thick of it end? Please, someone tell us. Like, we've been hearing we're in the thick of it for
I feel like now is really the thick of it. We've been hearing it like, oh, you have a newborn? That's the thick of it. Oh, they're just turning into a toddler? That's the thick of it. but now both of them in 2 different toddler stages.
Yeah, because Cruz is
feel like a
starting
crazy
to like
person every
leave
day.
the toddler stage. So
Yep.
he'll be 5 in September. So his stage now is a completely different stage where he does not sound like a toddler anymore. He sounds like a little kid. Even last night we had dinner at some friend's house, and when we were leaving, he says, "Bye, bro," and we were
Like,
like,
where did you learn that?
so he's always been inquisitive, but now like some of the questions he asks and the things that he says, it's like little kid stuff, right? Penelope is now going to be 2, and
We are in fear for our lives every day.
constant fear for our lives. She's just so bossy and literally a Sour Patch Kid. Like, could be so sweet,
Yes.
could be so
The
mean.
sweetest little girl. Oh my gosh. She's so sweet, but so scary.
Especially if she's hungry. And
she's always hungry, so that tells you a lot.
yeah, and we have just no idea where she gets it from. It's a mystery where she gets it from. So it's so hard. Like we've said, like, all right, after the kids go to sleep, we'll go downstairs, we'll have some wine, we'll watch a movie, we'll hang out and we'll talk. But it could be 9:30 at night and she's babbling in her crib and I'm laying next to her crib on the floor with
And
a
we're
stiff
texting each
neck.
other. Like, is this for real?
Like, this is the ghetto. This is really, really super whack sometimes.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
we took a 3-week vacation like we always do in December. We closed the practice, give our employees 3 weeks. And I think after like day 5, we were like, we're good.
I'm fine.
we're
Next
good.
year we don't have to do
Yeah,
this.
we don't got to do this anymore.
We really don't
We're-
need 3 weeks.
What's one thing that you miss about our life before kids?
Having alone time. And not just alone time together. I feel like alone time apart is so important to just recharge. So when you're constantly running on fumes and you have no opportunity to ever charge your battery, you start to feel like you're going insane. And I feel like that's the point that we're at right now. So I think the thing that I miss most is just being able to have quiet when I want it. And we've always had dogs since we've been together.
I used to be such a dog person. They stress me
I
out.
still love them, but they are very stressful as well. They're kids on top of kids. But just being able to just sit in peace. I remember when we had a little apartment outside of Chicago, and those were the best days. He would come home from work. I would cook. The apartment would be spotless. We would have music, candles, wine every night. We would watch a movie, go for a walk, go outside.
I'm about to cry.
I'm about to cry just thinking about it. I have so many stories. And I think now, I feel like when we got married, so many people would be like, when are you having kids? Are you ready for kids? When are you having kids? We had one kid. Oh, when are you having your next one? When are you having your next one? I am fighting for my life.
And we had the next one. Oh, are you guys done at 2? Oh my God, you guys should have 3.
You need to have
but
3.
you can't just have 3 because then, you know, the middle one's a weirdo. You got to have 4. It's like,
When
what is
does it
wrong with
end
you people? Seriously.
What do I look like?
And don't get us wrong. Like, we love our kids. They're the center of our universe. We would not trade our kids for anything in the world at all. There have been times where we've just reminisced, and I've asked you, because sometimes you just forget, like, what did we used to do when we would get home from work? And you'd say whatever the hell we wanted, or like we could just pack up and go, like if we wanted to take a short weekend trip.
We have
or
to ask our moms for permission to do anything.
Isn't that crazy? Like when you're a kid, you have to ask your parents for permission to go out, and then you get to be an adult and you're a parent and you have to ask your parents for permission to go out so they could watch these damn kids.
Please take these damn kids.
I don't know. I think that's something about parenthood that you can't be prepared for is just
can't.
your life is not your own anymore. No matter how much you try to find time, I think there is a season where you're limited, right?
Yeah.
Like my mom watches, Penelope Monday through Thursday. She's at our house all day. And I think we both feel guilty to ask her on Fridays or Saturdays, like, hey, can you watch them so that you and I can go out? And it's hard. I think right now, the part of life that we're in, that's probably the hardest thing. Because once we get home, it's off to the races. It's who's going to bathe them, who's going to walk the dogs, who's going to make the dinner, who's going to...
Here feels so peaceful. When I come to work, the birds are chirping. And we have so much fun at home with the kids. I don't want anyone to think that our kids make us miserable. I don't want anyone to think that we regret having kids. But it's just nonstop. You are on the clock. There are some Saturdays we wake up before them and we hear them coming. And I'm like, I'm not ready to clock in yet. Please don't get them yet. Let's just finish our coffee. Let's take a breath. Let's hug. And then we can get to it because it's just non-stop all the time.
And we've had to remind ourselves, like, it's not us. It's not
Yes.
us. We're not beefing with each other. We're good.
Yeah.
And really, like, seriously, you have to remind yourselves sometimes as a couple, like, you and I are on the same team. They are trying to divide and conquer.
It's working.
And we need to hold the line. Especially now, Cruz being, about to turn 5. He has become such a little tattletale.
A tattletale, a dictator.
Well, Penelope's
And
a
there are
dictator
so many
too.
times where we'll be frustrated and he'll be like, now, mommy, use your words. Mommy, that's not a nice thing to say. And I'm like,
After he drives us nuts.
yeah.
Or if I'm downstairs and I'm getting my stuff ready for the next day and all of a sudden I hear him crying and I hear him coming down the stairs, I'm telling Bobby, and he'll
Go
come
ahead.
down
Leave
and
me
he'll tell me
alone.
that you said he couldn't watch Spider-Man. And, if I'll say like, well, mommy said we got to go to bed. I'm telling mommy. And it's just like,
Back and forth. But they're so funny.
yes, because Cruz has been funny since the womb.
Yes.
He's always been crazy. Penelope, I think for the first year, we weren't sure. Does she like us? Is she going to fit in? Do we
She
send her
did not
back?
like us, I can tell you. She barely smiled. Well, she smiled, but she was just very quiet. She was just sitting back and observing and just testing the waters. When she turned 1,
Gloves came off.
and we were not prepared.
No, we weren't prepared. You were worried. And
Yes.
you being worried was, admittedly a little frustrating to me, and I probably didn't handle the frustration the best. But you were worried because you felt her development was not as quick as Cruzy's development. And I remember just telling you, like, she's fine. She's a little baby. Babies develop at their own pace. And I think what was happening is she was just holding everything until she turned 1. And then she came out and said, surprise, bitch. And she was just cooking.
Yeah.
And now how worried are you? Now you're worried for different reasons. Because you're worried she'll drag you down the stairs. And
She does already. Yes. Having a daughter is crazy because it's like watching a mini version of yourself, which I admit is very scary sometimes because...
Are you saying that's how you were?
Were. No, my mom did tell me when I was younger, I didn't cry. I didn't throw tantrums, but I was very bossy. So I guess I'm experiencing that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know they always say, you're going to have a mini version of you and all your karma is going to come back. And sometimes I think, okay, it's scary, but I hope she is like me.
I do too. Because I think she is very sassy. She is very confident now. She's very bossy. All of these things, but especially when it comes to raising a little girl, I'd rather that than the opposite. I want her to be confident in herself. I want her to be sure of what she wants in life. Like, I don't need her to just be nice.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't want her to be.
you know, I don't want her to be just nice. I want her to, be.
You want it to be respectful.
Yeah, I want her to be.
Walked
Yeah,
all over.
correct.
Exactly.
Right. And I think as a father, that's from my perspective. Like, it's so different raising Cruz than raising Penelope. And I don't even know how to describe it, but I feel like in terms of discipline, like, we very rarely yell at Cruzy. We've never hit him. But if Cruzy does something wrong, like, I can put on the stern dad voice and get at his eye level and, like, do you understand me? And do that. That does not come out with Penelope. It's usually like, please, like, okay, go with mommy. Go
And
with
she
mommy.
will look you dead in your face and say, no.
Yeah, and you don't, like, I don't, when she's throwing a tantrum, I genuinely have not figured out how to respond to it.
Because Cruzy's very like, can we talk about it? I'm so upset right now. You really hurt my feelings. Can we talk about it, please? Cruzy, do you just need a hug? Yeah. With Penelope, can I please just give you a hug? Nothing else is working. Can I please just
And then
give
she'll
you a
hit
hug?
you
No. And she'll strut off into the sunset.
and throw herself on the
Throw
floor,
herself on the floor,
or she'll do one of
scream.
these. It's like,
And then probably 15 seconds later, okay.
or if you just say, like, so my go-to now with her when she's screaming is, do you want a snack? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I'm still working on that. If you could give advice to 2014 Mercedes right before moving to Chicago, what would you tell her?
I would just tell her, just do it. Don't be afraid to take chances on things that scare you, and I can take my own advice now. I probably need to a little more these days, but just take the risk. Everything's always going to work out. Literally everything always works out, even when it feels like you can't see the bright side of things. Just everything always works itself out.
What do you hope our life looks like 5 years from now? I just hope we make it out alive.
Me too. That's what I hope. I hope that we make it out alive, one. That our kids are thriving, which I know they will be. That our businesses are thriving. And that we both feel fulfilled in ourselves, which allow us to be better partners, better parents, better people, better bosses. And yeah, I just hope we can find ourselves again.
I'm sure we will. The thick of it must end at some point. Even though right now we're about to go right back into the thick of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know that it will get better. The other day I read something that said, everything that you prayed for, you're living through it now. And that is true. Like, we have a business that's doing really well. We have 2 beautiful, healthy kids. We have our health. We have each other. And sometimes I think we just need to kind of pause and appreciate that. Like the other day, you texted me, you were on your way home from getting your nails done, and you said, do you want to go for a walk? And my initial reaction was, I looked at the clock. It was like 6 o'clock at night. I was like, are you insane? Like, we still got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do that. But I just said, yeah, let's go for a walk. And that was probably the best thing that we've done all week.
Yeah.
Just to put on pause everything that we have to do. Like, we will get to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to die. It's not as urgent as we think it is. And just enjoy each other's company for a little bit. It's a nice reset. I hope that in 5 years we can reclaim some of our time. Right now, I feel like that's the one thing we don't have enough of,
Yes.
regardless of how much time we try to create or try to make. Someone is taking a hit somewhere. Our schedules are really difficult right now. They're really packed, and I hope in 5 years, apart from everything that we have now, we're able to reclaim some of that.
We will. I'm putting it out there. We will. We need to.
We must. We must.
We need to.
And we're going to take this opportunity. If y'all are interested in a full-time babysitting gig, maybe like an au pair.
Oh. Well, wait. But yes, applications, you can send them to, maybe send them to me.
Yeah, send them to her.
Yeah. Opportunities, I would say all parties welcome, but not really. Yeah, if you love kids, if you want to have a good time.
Ours can do tricks.
They can, many. If you want to have a good time and be able to send them right back to us, hit me up, please. Please. I would love that.
You ready to go back and get them?
Yeah.